All right, and we are back. 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 Welcome. All right, and we are back. And today we're back with another reaction video. And this time we're going to be talking about Elden Ring and why it's all about mushrooms. Apparently the DLC proves it. We're going to be watching a video by a creator named ZioStorm. This is going to be my first time checking them out, but I'm very interested in this. As you guys know, I have beaten the game. You know, I am an Elden Lord. So like, you know, respect. But also recently I've beaten the DLC. So, you know, I'm like, I'm him. You know, insert footage of gameplay somewhere here, editor. So yeah, we're going to be checking this out today. Apparently it's all about mushrooms. That is the very last thing I would have actually ever expected the game to be all about. I thought it was about gods and family relationships and, you know, stuff like that. But apparently it's all about mushrooms. So we're going to go ahead and check that out, guys. Make sure you like, you comment, you subscribe to the channel. You never know what I'm going to put out next. But also, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to ZioStorm. Makes great content, so make sure you subscribe to the channel, guys. The link will be down below. But with that being said, just want to bring this up. I know I almost never bring it up, but I do have to say it at least this one time. If you guys don't like, comment, and subscribe to the channel, more importantly, subscribe. YouTube will come through that door right over there, and they will. Elden Ring is all about mushrooms, and the DLC proves it. Thus does new life grow from death, and from death power.
A little over a year ago, I made a video talking about how Elden Ring was about mushrooms. And in that video, we explore a lot of the imagery used in the game that finds its basis in mycology. Now, the thing we need to understand about Elden Ring is that the game is a conglomeration of tons of visual and thematical.
I think I see some of that mycology he's talking about. What's going on here?
Used in the game.
Look at that mushroom over there, guys. You see that?
That finds its basis in mycology.
That's also another mushroom. Spores. The spores.
Now, the thing we need to understand about Elden Ring is that the game is a conglomeration of tons of visual and thematical influences. The three major ones being mythological influence, alchemical and occult influence, and then botanical. But today I want to focus on one of the major themes of the game, because I believe by frame...
See, I overlooked the botanical ones. The other two I saw clearly, but it was the last one that was the real mystery to me personally. Comment down below if you guys already figured that one out. I don't think too many people would have figured that one out, guys. I'm going to be honest with you. If you did, let me know. Let me know if you really did. If you didn't, you know, be honest. But if you did, let me know. I want to see who really was thinking about that. Who was really thinking about the mushrooms.
Framing the story under the guise of mushrooms, we not only get a clearer picture of how many of the game's fundamental laws work, but also what I believe are
this chick, yes, whoever made it so you have to die 4 times to her was definitely on mushrooms, guys. I get it now. I get the whole theory now. It makes sense. The creators were on mushrooms when they made some parts of this game, guys.
Very obvious and intended answers to some of the game's most unexplained lore questions. But to begin today, we need to understand how the...
So you gotta, spoiler alert, if you haven't actually beat the DLC, I hate to be that guy, but spoiler alert right now, because you gotta beat Mesmer to even burn this thing, guys. If you haven't beat Mesmer, you can't do what he's doing right now.
The game's most unexplained lore
questions. But you can get there so easily before you beat Mesmer. it's like they want you to have something there. But luckily, I actually beat Mesmer, then went here. So shout outs to me.
Questions. But to begin today, we need to understand how the story of Elden Ring is laid out. When we try to unpack the history of the Lands Between, one thing that becomes abundantly clear is that history is written by the victors. Okay. All throughout the game, we find evidence of civilizations that have come and gone, overwritten by the passage of time and the scrubbing of their history by the winners of the war. Civilizations are built over the dead, rising up from the decay, much like themselves a mushroom. I mean,
what does that remind you of? Mushrooms, guys.
The entirety of the Lands Between is literally built on the decaying corpses of primordial giants. I think there might be a little hint going on here, and it's most
hold on now.
And corpses of primordial giants. I think there might be a little hint.
Do I even need to say it? Do I even need to say it? This theory is like almost 100% like verified at this point. Does there even need to be any more evidence? Look at that. Look at these two things.
And it's most explicit in the Erd tree itself.
Guys, we all know two things looking alike is 100% verified evidence. I'm joking right now, but real 100%. I do actually enjoy the theory so far. I think the theory is, it has a little bit of weight based off the very minimal evidence he's shown me so far. I'm not easily swayed. I'm not over the fence yet. I'm looking at the other side from the other side. I'm still on the side of the fence where this may not be about mushrooms, but I'm looking at that side and I'm like, man, this is just a gated fence. Like I can clearly see what's on the other side. It does look nice over there. They saying some decent stuff so far. I'm gonna hear them out.
So let me show you something here. For a long time in the community, there was a debate about the Erd tree being one or two trees. Whether it was always this magnificent golden tree, or if it was something else and the gold was new. But the visual evidence here ultimately points to two separate things. A regular tree of wood with the gold as its outer coating, which can be clearly seen at the Elden throne and the entrance to the tree itself. But the most interesting part of this, in my opinion, can be found at the very top of the Erd tree within its canopy. You can see it normally with the telescope, but if you use a camera mod, you can get a really good look at what's happening up here.
I'm not using mods. What's going on here?
At the top of the Erd tree, we can see a battle between the wood and the gold, with the gold emitting these little feelers that seem to be taking over the wooden tree. We can see that the tree inside the gold is dead, and these golden tendrils are spreading along the wood. You can see very clearly here that the wood and the gold are not the same. The life of the tree only comes from the gold, and whatever is left beneath has long since lost its glory. There's a very direct and interesting real-life parallel here with a slime mold, which feed on and decompose dead trees. Even
this is all mushroom stuff, or like mold stuff, mushrooms.
Down to their golden color. The behavior here is almost exact with what we see going on in the Erd tree. While relatively recent research has suggested that slime molds are not fungi, they've found as a matter of fact that they're actually a type of eukaryotic amoeba, which just so happens to be what the Elden Beast design is based.
Hold on now. Bro cooking. He's actually cooking right now. He is in. Hold on now. What?
Off of. Now, is that a coincidence or not? But despite that, they still shared the same principle of feeding off of the dead and emitting spores, which is interesting considering that the gold of the Erd tree is sustained from the dead of the Lands Between. The bodies of the dead in the Lands Between are brought to the Erd tree roots to be assimilated into them, thereby sustaining the Erd tree. And we'll talk about this practice more in detail in regards to the DLC in a bit, but in context to our real-life counterpart of the slime mold, this is exactly the kind of thing it would thrive off of. Let's consider something else as well, the golden seed. The description of the seed talisman states that these seeds were thought to not exist due to the
I never read these. I almost never read the descriptions on anything, so I miss out on tons of lore apparently because I don't read the descriptions on things. Guys, I don't know what to tell you. It'd be kind of like I'm used to games where they more just like are a little bit more outwardly descriptive of what everything and what the plot and everything is. And, not an excuse. I still love the game. I think it's incredible. It gives me the feeling of Legend of Zelda when I was like a kid, when I was like 8 or 9 and I was playing Legend of Zelda and I just like wasn't paying attention to the storyline that they were giving me outwardly. This is how it feels. It brought me back to that point. Instead of being a kid, like, just not paying attention, I'm an adult who just the plot's just not fully given to me, and I don't care to go through the details of it. I'll just watch some videos online about lore theory videos. That's pretty good. So guys, yeah.
Section of the Erd Tree, but when the
you got the point out of that, I'm sure the real ones got the real point out of that. You guys got the point out of that. I
Elden Ring was shattered, these seeds scattered all across the lands between. That sounds a lot less like seed behavior to me rather than spores, as in relation to our slime mold, the way it releases its spores is after being disturbed or broken. But one other thing, did you ever notice that the mushrooms in the lands between glow with the exact same gold as the Erd Tree? And I think that choice there is very deliberate. Now, am I saying through all of this that the Erd Tree is a mushroom, a slime mold, a fungus? Not entirely. No. It is still in the game's world presented as a tree. However, by understanding the imagery from software chose to use, we can better understand the themes they're trying to convey. And let me give you another example. A large part of the lore in Elden Ring's DLC focused on the fingers. Now, the two fingers specifically were a big...
Bro, finding out the history of the two fingers, actually pretty insane. I was actually upset going through these missions here, specifically, because they had those guys that would... put that little ring around you and it would trap you, and then other people would attack you. Those guys suck, and they were filling every one of those areas. You have to go blow on the horn, it was worth it at the end to fight the boss and do all the things. It was a pretty fun fight.
Part of the original Mushroom Theory video. And in that video, we present that the two fingers were likely based on a mushroom in real life called the Dead Man's Fingers. Now, not only has the DLC reinforced the idea of the two fingers being types of mushrooms, it has outright confirmed the inspiration of the Dead Man's Fingers, with the addition of a new item called the Finger Mimic. Its description reads, light pink mushroom resembling a wizened finger, exceedingly rare to find, used by those who wish to become fingers to induce hallucinations. They call these mushrooms the stillborn of the two fingers. Now, right off the bat, we know that the design of these finger mimics, while being confirmed to be mushrooms, are quite literally the Dead Man's Finger mushroom. But this brings about a few questions. Firstly, why? If the two fingers are actually mushrooms, or at least communicated with that theme in the same way the Erd Tree is, then that would make perfect sense in context of their role in the game's lore. In the game, the job of the two fingers is to be a mediary between the greater will and the inhabitants of the lands between. They are, as far as we know, the only things able to make contact with the greater will itself. This is reflective of a mushroom's role in an ecosystem, as besides decomposing dead matter, mushrooms are messengers, able to send and receive signals from trees and communicate to other plants in the ecosystem.
Yes! Mushrooms are actually pretty incredible like that. You put some mushrooms, like the mushrooms in the forest, they communicate with each other. They can communicate with all the connected things that they have their, vines and stuff connected to underground, the roots connected to. The roots can touch other roots, and they'll send signals to the trees to let you know what's going on with other trees. Like, I actually heard it's really good to have mushrooms in the forest and stuff. They're like the internet. You hook them up, everything gets connected together.
Through something known as the Great Mycelial Network. This is an intertwining web beneath the ground between mycelium strands and tree roots, where they pass along a wide...
What I just say, guys? See, I be knowing stuff, guys. Y'all just be acting like I'm just yapping, but I'm telling y'all real stuff here. I literally just explained all of this. Here's the visuals, but I just explained it, okay?
A range of signals between themselves,
right, there's the visuals,
whether it be
guys.
Danger, alerting of food, or other things that we're still on the cusp of learning about. Now, one thing you'll notice about the Erd Tree is that there is nowhere in this game that its roots don't touch. Even in the Land of Shadow, we see the spread of Deathroot, meaning that the Erd Tree roots reach here as well. But each of the two fingers is stationed atop the Divine Towers, which are great structures that themselves are built into the land, perhaps even into the roots of the tree. And if these are merely just stone towers, then why do we find the fingers in a bed of soil and grass atop them? The reality here is, the two fingers...
You know what? I never thought about that. Why is there a bed of grass and soil on top of those towers? I never really even thought about that.
We
I never
find the
thought about
fingers in
I
a bed
never
of
thought about
soil
why
and
that's
grass
happening.
atop them. The reality here is, the two fingers are always connected to the Erd Tree, even the one in the Round Table Hold, which is the only one we find alive. But we have lots of reason to believe that the Round Table Hold itself is either a projection through the Erd Tree's power, or inside the Erd Tree itself. But the DLC shook up our understanding of the two fingers a bit, because we don't actually find any in the Land of Shadow, but we do find their mother, Metter, who, like a mushroom, reproduces them asexually, though for a reason that is not specified. She no longer gives birth to two fingers, but instead the lesser and unpowerful finger creepers.
Yeah.
Now, I made an entire lore video.
Now, also, that thing was pretty tough. I gotta be honest. That thing was tough to beat. I do like the little hammer you get from it. You know, you can like put it up to the ground and rip it up and do the little move. It's actually pretty cool. But that boss, like, it's like I'm debating, like, if I do that DLC again. I haven't done a New Game Plus yet. You know, I'm still going through the DLC. I just grabbed a couple of new weapons earlier. But, like, it just feels like I don't know if I'm going to go through every one of those bosses again if I do a New Game Plus. Hey, say what you want, but I went through all the bosses I could. They were tough. I definitely want to fight Bale again. I would probably do the DLC just to fight Bale again. Bale was a cool fight. It's just like I'm not looking forward to Mesmer. Fun fight, but I was so happy to get it over with. You know, I'm not looking forward to fighting Radon again. Fun fight. Hey, happy to get it over with. Stage. Hey, when him and his brother, you know, people make fun of that, but when you look at it from a distance, and I understand it's not his hair, but if you look at the brother's hair on top of Mesmer or on top of Radon, it looks like he's going into Super Saiyan mode. And then when he's doing all the, you know, quick slices and he's projecting towards you with 3 images and attack you like 9 times, that feels like Super Saiyan Stage 3 to me. That's all I'm going to say.
On Metter, but my personal theory as to why we don't see any more two fingers being born is because I believe Metter was wounded by the Nox through the use of the Finger Slayer blade, which has a description that tells us that not only is it bloody and used, but it's the proof of the high treason of the Nox, which led to punishment by the Greater Will. This is evidenced by the Finger Slayer blade being the only thing capable of harming envoys of the Greater Will, which of course Metter is, but also Metter being wounded in her belly, where she would harbor her children. Now, if you were wondering how exactly this connects back to mushrooms, well, check this out. The punishment for the Nox,
you know what? I actually forgot about the mushroom thing for a second.
Was banishment underground, beneath a false night sky. But let's examine this false night sky for a minute. As we can clearly see, these are not stars. I'm actually 100% confident that these are spores. If we look at these white spores above Nokrin, we'll see that they're suspended in the air, unmoving. And here we can find mushrooms of the exact same color, these known as the melted mushrooms. But that's really about it over in Nokrin. But if we go over to Noxtella, we see something very cool. Here, the stars, or what I believe are spores, are falling down to the ground, unlike over in Nokrin, where they don't move at all. But as we'll notice, since these fall down, all of the vegetation here is covered in white mycelium. The spores from above are infecting the plants, and of course it is the exact same color as the stars. It's not just like a white coating on the leaves, we can very clearly see veins of mycelium, exactly as it would be in real life. Also, there's a slime mold that looks just like this called Myxogastria, which might be where they got the idea.
Yo. What? That looks super dope. Like, don't eat that if you see that in real life, but like, if you do, let me know how it goes.
Yeah. All of this just compounds to the idea that the Greater Will manifests its manipulations through the use of mushrooms, or From Software chooses to communicate that through mushroom imagery. But that's all surface level. This idea of mushrooms and decomposition goes all the way to the very fundamentals of Elden Ring's world. Let's look at some other inhabitants that live beneath these underground spores. The ancestral worshippers. They worship the cycle of decomposition and growth from death. Take a look at the Ancestor Spirit's horn. It has a description that reads, item cut from the horns of the regal Ancestor Spirit. A number of new growths bud from the antler-like horns of the fallen king, each glowing with light. Thus does new life grow from death, and from death one obtains power. That is the main theme of Elden Ring's DLC, and how the story we have in the base game was set up, built literally from the death and slaughter that happened in the Land of Shadow. In the DLC, we can find a location called Bonnie Village, a town in ruin filled with nothing but ghosts and beings called the Greater Potentates. The butchering knife of these potentates tells us that they were used to dismember human bodies in the making of the great jars stored in the jails.
They would just cut people up. And what was it? It was like they had a village, or there was some people that could heal really quickly. But then they realized that when they cut into them and then like they would heal, they could like put stuff into them and they can like graft them together with other things and people. So they start cutting people and grafting them together and just throwing them in jars together until they come out. And then those are the things that explode out the jars and attack you. Insane.
And we learned from the Tooth Whip, also found in this area, that these shaman inhabitants of the village were chosen because their flesh was said to meld harmoniously with others.
Guys, I literally just said this. I just said this.
Where the base
I didn't
game
make the theory though. Shout outs to this guy, subscribe, but I did literally just say this.
Inferred the true nature about the living jars. The DLC gives us a look inside. Inside the living jars are a conglomerate of flesh, with the base a skinned shaman. But bodies aren't the only things that go in the jars. The DLC also introduced the red flesh and white flesh mushrooms. And their descriptions read, mushroom that grows in sullen lands, easily found everywhere in the realm of shadow. The flesh of the mushroom is similar to raw meat and can serve as pot innards. Now the practice of living jars containing bodies is nothing new. They exist in the base game, and as we discussed earlier, were used to fertilize the Erd Tree. But there's more to this picture. The main area in the Land of Shadow is Inir Elim, the Spiral Tower. This is the path to divinity. But one thing you'll notice about Inir Elim, if you have a keen eye, is that everything here has bodies in it. Instead of fertilizing a tree, the bodies of the pots were used to build a tower. But like the tower itself, and as we see in the lands between, the trees here are also made of bodies. But the most important part of the tower is the Divine Gate, where the ascension to godhood takes place, and as we established, from death, power. But take a look at this. The two beings that actually ascended to godhood here were Marika and Mikola. Their godhood fueled by the bodies of the Divine Gate and Inir Elim. That is where this power came from.
Okay, also, here's my one grudge about the DLC. For real, honestly, guys, after you beat the game, why can't you step through this gate? You should be able to do something else in that area. There should be more of a cutscene. You should step through the gate. I don't know what happens after that. I would have felt happier if I would have got to step through the gate. I was so upset I didn't get to step through the gate. I was looking at the gate afterwards. I ran up towards the gate. I tried to jump up towards the gate. I couldn't get up to the gate. If you guys know how to get into that gate, let me know. Or if this is just how the game ends, let me know. I didn't get into the gate. I was upset.
When we finally defeat Mikola, he leaves something behind. The circlet of light is the remnant of his godhood, the symbol which he gained upon his ascension, and its effects slightly boost intelligence, faith, and arcane. This increase is emblematic of that godly power. Now remember that finger mimic mushroom we talked about earlier? Well, that's used to craft an item called the Finger Nostrum, and it has a description that reads, Bolus engraved with whorl-like lines. Boost mind, intelligence, faith, and arcane at the cost of gradual HP loss. A secret medicine of those who attempt to turn their human bodies into fingers. Ingesting causes something to wriggle within. So the fingerprint nostrum gives you the same effect as Mikola's circlet. It's that stat increase that's emblematic of godhood. But since there's no outer decomposition taking place, no death to gain power from, the ones who consume the nostrum begin to decompose themselves. That's why it doesn't just give you a stat increase, but also drains your health while using it. That's why the creatures in the Finger Ruins are lampreys. They're leeches that need to steal life to maintain their power. And that's why the Finger Ruins themselves
I hate these guys. The worst part about going through this mission is running into these guys all the time. He put look at what he did to him. This is what they did to me the whole time. You see that ring?
Leeches that need
Bam,
to steal
through the ring around you. Now you can't
life
move.
to maintain their
And here
power.
comes
And that's
the
why
other
the finger
guys.
ruins themselves
Here
are
comes the
barren
other guys trying to
wastelands.
get an
In order
easy
for power
attack
to
in.
emerge, there has to be death and decomposition. We see this as well with the Nox in their attempt to replicate the technology of the tower to bring about their Lord of Night. But they were ultimately unsuccessful, perhaps due to the use of inorganic beings in the Silver Tiers, which likely wouldn't have the life required to decompose and bring about godhood. It's the same story of the Halig tree with how Mikola had to water the tree with his own blood. It's the main fundamental law of power in the lands between. It's why the ancestors worshipped the cycle, because they realized that. So by understanding that law, we can understand why so much mushroom imagery is used in the game. But if you're still not convinced, then let's talk about some more.
I'm a little.
Ronnie's design is a play on a mushroom called the indigo milk cap, as seen when she's sitting on her throne. The sides of her cloak show only the part of her robe which would be the stem of the mushroom, and of course her hat would form the mushroom cap, with the underside having those same dark blue ridges and a top of white. And also on a side note, in order to become a lord of her age, she too must die in a sense, killing her physical body in an act of self-decomposition. Godwyn on the other side.
You know, the first playthrough I ever did, I did Ronnie's ending. I think everybody should do Ronnie's ending. It was pretty dope.
The coin died in soul, and his body became a literal fungus on the Erd tree, causing the spread of the Deathroot curse. And his design, while being mostly aquatic based, is a play on an oyster mushroom. It's also got that flat top with the same ridges and folds as we'll find out in the wild on dead and decaying
And all
trees.
the faces inside of all the dungeons and stuff. Okay.
And you'll also notice that the ghosts who are unable to die a true death because of the Deathroot curse are always seen with accompanied mushrooms.
I promise you, I've never noticed that before. I promise you, I've seen so many of those things. I have never once looked at if they have mushrooms around them or not. Not a single time. Comment down below if you have. If you ever noticed that, or if you thought like, dang, why is there always mushrooms around them? Please comment. I never noticed that before. No,
sprouting out of the ground around them, and also with that ghastly hue. Now, ironically, I don't want to touch on the Scarlet Rot very much, because while it may be the most direct and literal form of mushroom in the game, I think the picture here is just pretty obvious. And the outer god of rot doesn't seem
that's too obvious to even talk about. It's just too obvious. Okay.
To go beyond decomposition. And it's much less sophisticated with the way the Greater Will utilizes these things. If we were to sit here and talk about each way the god of rot utilizes mushrooms, then this video would probably be an hour long. And I'm sure most of you get the picture of what's going on here. So while it is a major force in the game, you get it. More mushrooms.
Wow.
Now, if you're someone that watched my original mushroom theory video, then you may have noticed the different direction I chose to take. Where in that video we took a much more literal stance on the Erd tree specifically being a type of fungus. In context of the DLC, I understand now that the imagery was not supposed to be taken literally, but is supposed to be a signpost pointing towards that greater theme, power from death in the essential decomposition. Now, there's even more aspects we could go further down this rabbit hole with, such as the cursed children of the Union of America and Radagon, and how their curses stem from the idea of asexual reproduction, again a decomposition of them in those curses, or how the man-eating Miranda flowers produce sprouts that look a little bit like the Erd tree in my opinion, but I think we get the picture.
Wait, did they produce the kids? I thought they would have produced the kids before they combined. Somebody explain that to me. I thought they produced the children before they became one. I don't know.
And I hope I've been able to communicate that properly. But the thing to keep in mind here is that through the use of mycological imagery, it's just one of the many building blocks that make Elden Ring so unique. And for further examples of what I'm talking about there, I recommend checking out Max Durat's video on Mesmer and the Abyssal Serpent, because you'll see another side of how they use these things to communicate greater themes. But y'all let me know down in the comments section, do you agree with much of what I presented in this video? Do you think we took things in the right direction, or did we get off on a completely unintended tangent? I'm curious to see what y'all think. Anyways though guys, if you enjoyed today's video, be sure to leave a like on it and subscribe if you're new around here. But with all that, I will catch you in the next one.
Guys, make sure you subscribe to ZioStorm. This was actually a great video. Do I believe that it's all about mushrooms now? I will say these are very, very strong arguments. I actually think I agree with him now. I actually think I fully agree with him based off that video. Now, I gotta watch I might have to watch like a video saying it's like, hey, this is not about mushrooms, and the DLC proved it. But for right now, as it stands, in the year 2024, I am agreeing with ZioStorm. Guys, I love his name. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. I like the imagery he's using. Metroid Prime was one of my favorite games. I had a GameCube as a kid, so I played Metroid Prime. Yeah, I played Zelda and Metroid. Mario, I did not really get into Mario games. I liked Super Smash Brothers, but that is about it. But yeah, guys, that was a great theory. I didn't realize all the intricacies. I didn't think about I didn't actually think about the color of the mushrooms in every area. I think that was the biggest thing for me. The biggest hit for me was like noticing the distinct color of the mushrooms. Now, what about he did talk about the red ones. Okay, he talked about the red ones. There's gold. You know, I guess the mushrooms, they're really absorbing things around them, because you can find those like, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, this theory might be true, guys. This theory might be true. I'm thinking about it more and in detail in my head. This theory might be true. I'm starting to believe 100% what he said. But guys, make sure you subscribe to him. Make sure you subscribe to me. And make sure you come back later, because you never know when I'm going to come back next. I have no clue why I just did those pauses, guys. That was completely, like, it was intentional after a minute. The first one wasn't intentional. But if you made it this far, I do want to say thank you. I love you. Bye.